You are tuned to Anubhav 2.0 podcast from senior citizens, catalyzed and supported by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, through National Institutes for Social Defense and Media for Community Foundation. The project is conceived and designed by Dr. R. Sridhar and supported by Ashish Tiwari, Pooja Murada, Sai Sudha and Kaushalya.
Hello listeners, greetings from Covaivani. Our guest today is Professor R. Shankar, an architect and urban planner who graduated in architecture in 1970 and earned his post-graduation in urban and regional planning from CEPT University in 1974. After gaining professional experience, he joined the University of Roorkee, now Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, where he served as senior professor and head of the Department of Architecture and Planning. With an academic career spanning over 4 decades, he has taught and guided students at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. His teaching and research interests include urban and rural planning, sustainable development, landscape architecture, and traditional knowledge systems. He has supervised numerous theses and dissertations, guided 6 PhDs, and authored over 90 research papers. Professor Shankar has also been active as an academic advisor, consultant, and expert in planning projects, including master plans, institutional campuses, and development regulations. His recent work includes planning pandemic resilient cities. He has contributed to educational media through 17 audiovisual programs and has supported curriculum and faculty development. A passionate traveler and photographer, he has explored regions like Uttarakhand and Kailash Manasarovar. Post-retirement, he worked at Graphic Era Hill University and now lives in Pili Padav in Haridwar, where he continues to teach, mentor, consult, and engage in community development. We are honored to have him with us today to share his insights on architecture. Over to Professor Shankar.
Vanakkam, Namaskaram, and hello to everyone. My name is Shankar, and this is my very first podcast talk. According to me, podcast is a very difficult medium for talk. In a live talk or a video talk, you see the audience, their expressions, and accordingly respond and improvise. You can also use graphics, slides, or use models or whiteboard. In podcast, you have nothing of this. You don't have an audience when you speak. You have no idea if your talk is interesting. The audience only hears you. They don't see you, your graphics, or your video. If they don't like the tone or your voice in the first minute, they are gone. The prospect of nobody listening to your talk in the podcast is very much there, and it is not very encouraging to a speaker. I have been lecturing and giving talks for years. Some 20 years ago, when libraries were being replaced by ocean of information on net, and smartphones and desktops were accessible to almost everyone, there was no incentive for people, even students, to attend live lectures. This is the situation now in academic institutions of higher learning also. What you hear in the lecture is available in the net. Hardly a few teachers try to make their lectures interesting and thought-provoking. Under these circumstances, only compulsory attendance requirement brings students to the class. Not a good situation, right? If you are still there, let me tell you something that may interest you. In this talk and in my subsequent talks, I will ensure that the contents are not copied from any book or net. The topics may be familiar to you, but the contents would be my thoughts, my perception, my viewpoints, or my interpretation. Generally, the topics I choose for my lectures are those which I have understood well and on which I have done some research and a lot of thinking. So, over the recent years, I have made it a point to include in my talks and lectures mainly those things that are not there or not easily found in the net. My approach is usually to lead my listeners from a well-known to a lesser-known to rarely known information and ideas. Today, in this podcast, for the rest of the time, I will be talking about architecture. Unlike 50-60 years ago, today almost everybody knows about architecture, thanks to easy accessibility to media and net. Let me tell you some interesting facts about architecture, architectural education, and its linkages or connection with other facets of our environment. Architecture is about buildings and its environment. It is not an engineering branch, not included in the field of science or management. It is actually included in the field of arts. If you go to any library, you will find books on architecture in the arts section, along with painting, sculpture, etc. Architecture can be defined as the art and science of designing buildings and methods of executing it. Another well-known defining statement is architecture is the mother of all arts. As an art or as a fine art, it deals with the same design elements. Let me mention two important design elements: form and space. An architect creates form, the form of the building, and delineates three-dimensional space within. In the process of creating form and space, he strives to achieve beauty and functionality within the parameters of durability and economy. So, beauty, functionality, durability, and economy become the architect's design objectives. A tough task indeed. And the involved design process is not a simple one. It is complex and needs a lot of knowledge and practice. That explains why the architecture course, unlike engineering courses, is of 5-year duration. Architecture is as old as history is. It is as ancient as arts are. Egyptian pyramids, Mesopotamian ziggurats, Greek Parthenon, and the Roman Pantheon and Forum are all examples of architecture. So are our temples, be it the Tanjavur Big Temple, Chidambaram Nataraja Temple, or Madurai Meenakshi Amman Temple. They are all examples of great Indian architecture. They are all part of our architectural heritage. Schools or institutes of architecture are among the oldest educational institutions, the oldest being the one in France which started in the late 17th century. Compared to that, The oldest institute of technology started only in early 18th century in Prague in Czech Republic. The question arises then, how was it possible to design and build the wonderful architectural monuments of the past without getting educated from a college or an institute? There is more than one answer. At the time of ancient civilizations like the Roman, Greek, and Mesopotamian outside India, 2 to 3,000 years ago, or even more, there were people who had the knowledge to design and build not only great buildings and structures, but also ships, canals, and other engineering structures. Some of those wise men, the knowledgeable people, taught others who were eager to learn what and how to do things. Something similar to our Gurukulam system. They also wrote down what they knew, what they taught. For instance, Vitruvius, a great Roman architect and engineer who lived during the 1st century BC, wrote a voluminous treatise on architecture. Imagine this happened more than 2000 years ago. His fundamental principles of architecture are relevant even now. In India, our timeless Vedas talk about architecture. Based on the Vedas and Vastu Shastra, Vastu Vidya, or Sthapadya Veda, which is considered a Upaveda, many rishis and ancient scholars have authored texts on architecture. Maya Matam by Muni Maya, Brihat Samhita by Varaha Mihira, Manasara by many authors, and Arthashastra by Kautilya are important ones. Our Indian traditional architectural practices, which have been learnt and followed in a traditional way in different regions, are based on these texts. Our sthapatis, or traditional temple architects, continue to design and make buildings in the way it is prescribed in these Vastu Shastra texts. All of these are part of our traditional knowledge system, about which there is an awakened interest now among present day academicians, researchers, and practicing professionals. By the way, in Hindi, architecture is known as Vastukala and in Tamil, Kattidakkalai. In our Puranas and Itihasas, there is mention of Vishwakarma, the celestial architect, the architect of the gods. He is the divine architect, engineer, and master craftsman who not only fashioned the weapons and chariots of the gods but also made their abodes. The ancient cities of Dwarka and Indraprastha were made by Vishwakarma as per Mahabharata. You may think that it's all fiction, but our marine archaeologists have already discovered the submerged Dwarka city of the present-day Dwarka town in Gujarat. A Vishwakarma Jayanti is celebrated every year around mid-September, particularly in North India, in factories and workshops, even in educational institutions, to seek the blessings of the divine architect. And to end my talk, let me tell you something very interesting. There is a connection between nature and architecture. The connecting link is culture. Nature, culture, and architecture. Nature and its resources shape culture. Culture manifests itself in many forms: art, craft, music, festivals, traditions, etc. And architecture is the most visible manifestation of culture. You get the connection now? Till my next talk, bye, namaste, and vanakkam.
Thank you, Professor Shankar. Your talk was interesting as well as informative. I'm sure our listeners will also have gained a fresh perspective not just on the built environment but also on the values and responsibilities that shape it. Till we meet again with another podcast, this is Revati Bhaskar signing off on behalf of Covaivani.
You were listening to Covaivani podcasts from S3 Kovai Care, Coimbatore. Please contact 14567. I repeat 14567 Elderline Helpline during working hours for any assistance relating to senior citizens. Thank you.